Hey guys, welcome to Stacking Chairs, a youth ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry, whether it be camp or youth group. That's what we're here talking about, wherever God has you serving. I'm joined by my fellow host, my good friend, Kyle Gray.
Kyle Gray, yeah. Because we had a discussion before the episode started of what our middle names are. And I go by Kyle, but my middle name is Kyle.
So it's Kyle Gray.
It must be. Such a good name, my parents said it twice.
Such a good name, my parents said it twice. Kyle, we're here, and speaking of twice, it's the second episode.
It's the second episode of Stacking Chairs. If we haven't figured out how to stack them yet.
We haven't.
Well, then let's keep talking about it.
I think that's why. You ever seen the kids, like, that's the difference between the different kinds of chairs, how they stack them. But you remember those kids who would just fit, like, 12 chairs? Did we talk about this last episode?
No, we talked about talking about it. What was your strategy?
Oh, we did.
Because everybody has their own strategy.
Okay, so when I stack chairs, I turn them, because everyone always puts the part you rest against, they put that back out because you think you can fit your hand underneath. Yep. I swept it around. I flipped it around. So that way I could slide all of them and they'd kind of go up my arm a little bit. So I'd be able to get like 3 on each side or 4 on each side and then carry them that way. But I just wasn't strong enough. I was always a scrawny kid.
And let's be honest, you started out carrying 2. Like one in each hand, and then you saw that other kid that was carrying more, and you're like, oh, I have to carry as many as they carry. And then it's a challenge and a test of who can carry the most chairs and which person is watching you carry the most chairs.
Yes. After I got married, I just started carrying 1 chair instead.
Because you're like, I have nobody to impress.
Yeah,
So I was that guy that watched somebody stack them in the middle of the room, not like laying down, but like standing up, but like leaning on each other.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And because I was like, I couldn't stand standing in line. Like it was always
to go and stack
bad
the
assembly
chairs.
line. Yeah. So you grabbed them and then you stood in line because there wasn't a person going, oh, okay, hey, let's,
Yeah. When you here, sorry, real quick. I'm curious. When you stacked the chairs, did you have the kind that were the long carts that the chairs stacked up?
Oh,
or did
absolutely.
you have the big ones that had like the arms that came out?
No, I can't stand the arms that are out.
No?
I can't stand the arms that are out because unless you're paying attention, then you get the people that put them with the long arms like backwards. And if they're not all going to fit together.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
let me ask you this question. When you had the long cart, were you a part of the people that started trying to stack them from both sides, thinking that they would like somehow magically meet in the middle?
No, I was the one getting frustrated and always like shuffling them back up because they'd always slide down.
Yes.
I was always that guy.
That's awesome.
This is a unique conversation that I feel like only us and maybe like local parks or something like that have to talk about. Like church groups and local parks.
Yeah.
Like no one else has this conversation.
And then somebody brings you that one weird janky chair that like doesn't actually fit the group. And
and thank God for that one guy who in church who could weld and would go through and fix all the chairs. You guys have that guy too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that everybody didn't get like
we're all living the same life.
halitosis. That's not the truth.
I think it's halitosis. That's bad breath, but you could get halitosis.
Hey, I read a stat the other day, or a fact the other day, that Listerine actually created the idea of halitosis. That like.
So it's just a made up.
Yeah, it's just a made up thing.
Hallmark and Valentine's Day that everybody says. Okay. Well, that makes sense to me. So
speaking of making things up,
let's make up a transition. We both check our notes real quick. What was our transition? Do we have that?
Insert transition statement here.
Well, before we transition, what's God been doing like through your ministry? Have you seen anything really cool happening?
So we think camp all year long.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. We have camp seasons, but we think camp all year long. And it's been neat over the last couple of weeks that God has brought some different people to my doorstep. You don't always get this, all right? In fact, if you're listening right now, I want to urge you, pull out a little piece of paper, a scrap piece of paper, or pick up that phone and call somebody and just say, thank you. I over the past couple of weeks, have gotten some really random, out of the blue people just saying, hey, I don't think I ever told you guys this, but this made a difference in my life. And one came like totally out of the blue, obviously the perfect timing of God.
Yeah.
But came totally out of the blue. And it was almost even one of those things that even when I first started reading it, it was like, oh, this is cool. But like by the end of it, I was like, I really needed that. I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
But think about it. When's the last time you looked at your pastoral leadership and just said, hey, not just, hey, thanks, but I appreciate you because of a specific thing.
Yeah.
And so God just the past couple of weeks has just kind of been encouraging me in ways that, like, again, I didn't even realize that or was thinking like, oh man, I really need somebody to encourage me right now.
Yeah.
No, it just was out
That's
the blue,
the sovereignty of God right there, man. He knows when you need it. And
it's a good
he gives it
thing.
to his people.
How about you? What's God been doing?
The thing it hasn't even happened yet. I'm actually about to tonight when we're recording this podcast, of course, because tonight for you might be in
I'm so
2
glad
months.
that you told me don't talk about
Don't talk about time-specific things. And I brought
Don't talk about time-specific things. So later on, 5 minutes today.
Kyle's like, I've done a podcast. And I'm like, I haven't. I'm nervous. No, so tonight, actually, my youth pastor, he's been sick this past week. And so I offered like, hey, do you want me to teach? And so I'm really looking forward to I'm going to teach tonight. And we're just going to talk about like the importance of spending time in the Word. And I'm really excited just to do that. And I've realized how much I really enjoy just the practical side of interacting with the kids in our youth group and being able to connect with them and being able to teach and then also doing small group and all those things. I'm just really thankful for the opportunity that my youth pastor has given me to like take on new responsibilities and be a part of the ministry in that way.
Well, and Josh, that honestly, hey, that's a perfect segment. And
I did the one on purpose.
But how many of us neglect to realize, here's the deal. Disclaimer moment, all right? Here's a disclaimer. Disclaimer moment. I have never actually spoken to somebody that said, I am God's gift in ministry. You only need me. But let's be honest, okay?
Yeah.
Let's have a checkup from the neck up little moment right here. There are some of us that operate our ministries as if we're the only ones. Now, when I was in Texas for about 9 years, working with pastors and youth pastors and working with different people. And I actually did have a conversation with several different guys, several different people in ministry. And I actually heard somebody say, yeah, after I left it fell apart. They didn't realize how much they needed me.
Yeah.
And I can't tell because I'm not going to judge that person's heart.
Yeah, sure.
I can't tell that it wasn't a like, oh man, this is a moment that it was all about me. No, but in little mindset ways like that, we can make this situation, we can make the ministry about ourselves. And I think it's Ecclesiastes.
Both the whole scripture.
On period.
Get out my sound bites.
Well, I knew where I was going.
Okay. There's 2 of them here just in case you missed one.
But he says, listen, you don't know whether the person after you is going to do a good job or a bad job. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to do the best job with what you have right now. At the same time, I do believe that all of us, especially us in ministry, should be asking the question, how am I setting up the next person to succeed better than I succeeded?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even the people around me.
Yeah. No, I fell into that. I'll be completely honest with you. I actually fell into that. So I used to work at a different part of Word of Life in New York. And when I left New York and came down here to Florida to work with the international ministries team, the guy that I had left behind, there was a part of me that hoped like, oh man, I hope that he doesn't do as good of a job at my job than me. So that way they'll miss me. And even though I'm moving on, like, I'm moving on to do something else, I hope that they see like, oh, they couldn't have done this without Josh. That was, and thank God, like genuinely thank the Lord that he has like seen that and I feel like he chiseled a big chunk out and was like, you are like putting the ministry and the impact of this ministry on your back because you think that if you make a quality product, all of a sudden that's the goal.
Yeah.
But thank the Lord, like he's really worked in that sense that he said like, this is not about how good of a quality product you make. Like it doesn't matter because I do media content. It doesn't matter how good of a video you make. It matters that the gospel is presented, discipleship happens, and you're making an impact in these kids' lives because God's making that impact through you.
So how do you think guys get there? Like I don't think anybody gets into ministry and is like, I'm going to make this situation all about me.
Yeah.
Let's be transparent. You and I have had several different conversations about ministries or people in ministry that have unfortunately disqualified themselves or have quit and said, I'm done for a myriad of different reasons. I don't think any of those people, now I'm sure there's a statistic out there for some, but I genuinely don't think that people get into ministry going, I'm going to make this all about me.
Yeah.
This is here. So, but they get there. So many of us get there to that moment and we don't have that, oh my goodness, I am being prideful right now.
Yeah.
Where you were like, oh junk, that was such bad thinking.
Yeah.
But how do you think somebody ends up there?
I think it's through sanctification and through discipleship. Like,
no. How do you think they get there thinking thinking
I'm
wrong?
sorry. I was thinking, how do you get out?
We'll talk about the good stuff in a moment.
Yeah. How do you get in that space? Honestly, it's not being involved in the purpose of ministry. So if you're involved in a large ministry, like Word of Life, like we're involved in, and you're not involved in your local church, you're not involved in your community, and this becomes your whole life, and you're like, okay, ministry is my job. And if I succeed at my job and I get further, then ministry goes further. The more you fall into that trap and you're not leaning into people who are ahead of you in your life, who are ahead of you in their spiritual life, and you're not asking those people for help and guidance and having those discipleship relationships, that's how you fall into just worship of yourself and pride.
Yeah.
I think so. At least it happened to me. And thank God that he put people in my life who, knocked me upside the head.
Well, and I think sometimes one of the phrases that I like to use around Word of Life, when we deal with different problems, is to pause for a moment and examine, are we dealing with the monster that we've grown and we've created?
Yeah.
Because we're going to run into a problem. We're going to run into situations. None of us are perfect, but there's sometimes that we have created our own situation, or we've allowed our culture to create our own situation. I know that there's some of you that are out there that your lead pastor, the idea is laid out for you in maybe in word or an example is, no, it's you. It's you. Now, I tell my team all the time, when the guillotine falls, I will make sure that the blade hits my neck first. Now, sometimes it's such a big situation. The blade is going to go through my neck. It's going to hit yours. But I try to make sure that hey, listen, I'm gonna bear the brunt of the consequence of the decision. When I realize that I'm going to do that for my team, and we've done that. I've done that for my team.
Sure.
I realize, hey, listen, I want to help them because I don't want to have to get hit by another guillotine if there's a situation that I could have set up because, I want them to be involved in ministry, but everybody's not perfect. Yeah. But here's the one thing I tell them: I'm not going to fight you for the head hole. I'm not going to fight you for the head hole. If you're That's like, funny. No, I want to do my own thing. I want to be my own way. I praise God that I've had enough failures and flops along the way. And I guarantee you, I'm going to have enough failures and flops in the future that I've come to realize it can't be about me. I praise God that he's put me on a team with two assistant camp directors that are enough like me and we think enough, but at the same time, we think totally different. I mean, there's a regular time that me and one of my assistant camp directors will get on the phone and we'll say, hey, I want to know what you think about this because there's a good chance we're going to come at it from totally different perspectives.
So you're essentially like, we're talking about raising up leaders and the importance of a team in youth ministry. But really, when you raise up a leader, you also raise up a counterweight or a counterbalance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
Well, and I don't need, Josh, I don't think you need, I don't need, it's easier, but I don't need people that are going to join my team that are just going to think that I've arrived. I don't need people that are on my team that are just going to continue to be yes men and women. I was listening to a message. Actually, it's a message that I've listened to a number of times by a godly man who is no longer on this earth, named Howard Hendricks. I would encourage you, if you grab anything from Howard Hendricks, man, it is solid. Everybody's got some meat, or everybody's got some bones in their stuff, but man, there's a lot of meat there. But he said, you want to surround yourself with people that like you, but they're not impressed by you. Oh,
wow. Yeah. I see that.
Because, hey, Josh, I like you.
Yeah.
But when there's something wrong in your life or something that I don't agree with, I'm going to share it with you. But if I'm just impressed by you, how many times do I overlook, no, that can't be Josh. No, I must see it wrong. Or no, everybody else around him must be wrong. And can we just have a transparent moment? I've done that with leadership before. I've done that with leadership before. I put them up on pedestals and I could go back and go, oh, well, they put themselves. No.
No, you put them up on a really stacked chair set.
I put them on a really stacked chair set. Back to the beginning.
Oh my word, full circle.
Wow. But that's not fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
And so I need to make sure that I'm not now operating on the expectation, because let's be transparent. Sometimes I'd rather everybody just go, wow, Kyle, all of your ideas are just super great and everything that you say, but I don't need that.
Be great.
I don't need that.
No, absolutely. No, you're right. No, and I guess that also like leads me into the mindset of like, if you have people who are always thinking you're fantastic and they're always just doing everything you do, then can you truly delegate them to do things on your team? Like in youth ministry or in, in the size of World Life, in camp ministry, if you have someone who's just doing everything you do and it puts you on a pedestal and does everything the same as you, can you really delegate to them things to expand the impact of the ministry? Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
Now, there's two different ways I think that you can look at handing somebody responsibilities. Mm-hmm. I can hand you the responsibility, and here's where I forget who said it. I don't know if it was Andy Stanley. I don't know if it was Rick Warren. I don't know if it was Greg Stier, some youth ministry guru out there, or somebody that I heard like Groeschel or something.
Yeah.
But they talked about the idea of you can hand somebody a responsibility with no explanation, and that's not fair. That's not fair. But what's extra not fair is then when you come down and are frustrated with them that they didn't fulfill your parameters when you gave them no guidelines. Like, for instance, we talked about stacking chairs, okay? Let's talk about setting up chairs. Okay. You walk into your youth room, you know that the chairs need to be set up, and so you look at one of your leaders and you say, hey, can you set up the chairs? And they go, how do you want me to set up the chairs? And you go, just set them up. If they decide then to set them up in a different way because you didn't give them parameters, that's not fair.
Yeah. No, I've seen that. I've seen that happen. That's kind of funny because I've literally seen that exact thing happen because I've done that with our youth kids. The exact thing you're talking about, like setting up chairs. I'd be like, guys, set up the chairs for youth group quick. We have something once a month we call Kids Corner where the youth group actually helps with the kids ministry, the little kids ministry. And we all work together. And so there's a part where we go down and they do arts and crafts. So I'm like, hey guys, you set up the chairs, we're going to go do this. And you come back and the chairs, they've sat in youth group every single week and the chairs aren't set up the same way. Yeah. Somehow they didn't notice it.
And you would think, no. When here's I think you can learn good lessons from bad leadership.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of bad leadership in me.
Okay.
There are times that I have looked at my people and said, you should know what I want.
That's an easy pitfall.
It absolutely is. My wife and I do marriage counseling as well. And one of the first things that we talk about is unspoken expectations are unfair expectations. And unspoken expectations are typically unmet expectations. Yeah. Well, I think that's the same in youth ministry. I think that's the same all the way across the board. Now, the second way that I can set up people with a task to do that's unfair is not only not giving them ideas or boundaries, but I can give them all the ideas and the boundaries and give them no freedom to think on their own. And so every single time it's my way, it's exactly my way. That doesn't allow them to develop as leaders, and it actually doesn't even allow them to help me to develop as a leader.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely true.
So instead, I can look at them and I can say, hey guys, hey, can you set up the chairs? Well, how do you want us to set up the chairs?
Yeah.
In that moment, I can say, hey, here's the deal. Why don't you be creative? But obviously, I want to make sure that everybody's facing forward or everybody's facing the speaker, but, and maybe you're sitting there listening and going, why are we talking about setting up chairs?
Because this is a Stacking Chairs podcast.
Well, but honestly, Josh, I don't think it's the big things that frustrate most of us in ministry. I think it's the little things that we just lay out as like, well, you should know better.
Yeah.
Well, but did you help me learn?
Yeah.
And
that chair stack just keeps getting bigger.
Chair stack, it's like at the very beginning we talked about when you're hanging those chairs upside down and you look at that person and maybe consistently they're constantly running out of the room because one chair is facing one way, the other chair, the next couple chairs, it's facing the other way. So they're not going to fit all close together. Well, guess what? As a leader then, if I look at you and I say, hey, Josh, can you hang up the chairs? The most loving thing I can say, hey, just remember, you've kind of had this problem in the past. Just look at this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe I look at you and I go, you're not doing it the way that I want you to do it. Hey, help me understand your mindset. Because maybe you're going to open up an area that I've never thought of before.
About stacking chairs.
And it sounds so stupid.
But it's silly. It's a fun
But if I can apply this principle in stacking or setting up chairs.
You can apply it.
I can apply it down there. Yeah. Here's what I can tell you. You're not going to preach a perfect message this week. Okay.
Yeah.
Now tonight, you may walk away and people might not tell you anything that you can improve on, but you and I both know because we're humans, it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But the best thing that he's giving you the opportunity to do is to speak. He's giving you the opportunity. And I think the most loving thing he can do is after it, maybe not that I'm not a night of. Listen, if you're listening to this and I preach and I say something stupid, I probably realize what I've already said. Don't talk to me right after the message. Love me enough. Give me a week. Give me some time, you know. But I think the most loving thing that your youth pastor can do is grab some time with you in the next couple of weeks and say, hey, Josh, let me tell you what I think you did really, really well. Now, Josh, here's 1 or 2 ways that maybe I think you can improve it, but let's talk about that.
Yeah.
He wants to develop you as a leader, you know?
I think it's important that we also, before we wrap up here and do small group, is talk about not only, because we're talking a lot about the top-down leadership, like how do you as a leader equip a team, but what do you do as like a youth leader or as an assistant camp director or even just as like a layman? Like you're just the guy out there, you know, setting up chairs for camp, you know, whatever the situation is. How do you be a good part of a team and still be a leader without being the one in charge?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I sat in a youth leaders training one time when I was on a youth team, and the youth pastor there, very dynamic, very energetic, just a lot of fun. You watch somebody in ministry and you're just like, man, they're just a lot of fun. Yeah. But he was deep. He was good, and he was a student of youth ministry culture. He didn't. I don't think he really liked to read, but he made sure that he read to make sure that he was constantly developing.
Yeah.
I remember one time though. We sat down with our leadership team. Well, I was on the leadership team, but all of us sat down together. And he went on for about 2 hours, straight talking for 2 hours.
Yeah.
He wanted to see some massive changes happen in ministry. But I remember he got to the very end of the 2 hours and he said, all right, you got it? And a leader raised his hand and he said, yeah, so-and-so, we'll call him Brian. Yeah, Brian, what's up? And Brian says, hey, you know, Josh, thanks so much, man. I love that. I love your vision. I love where you see us going. But here's my one question. What do you want me to do? And we say, Brian got frustrated. Are you kidding me? And literally launched into another 15-minute to a half an hour, like back through.
Yeah.
And the youth leader interrupted him and said, hey, I understand that. I hear your vision, but what do you want me to do? I walked away from that realizing I can't just sell people on vision. I have to give people practical ways to get involved. So you're asking the question, how do we develop leaders for success? I think we have to do 2 things.
Or how do we be that person being developed?
I think number one, we have to, from top down, I think we have to give them specific things to do. I think we have to create a vision and create a direction, but I think we have to give them specific things to do. But then I also think we need to open up the doors to give them the leeway to bring their own personal creativity and touch. Now let's look at from the other side. I think my responsibility as somebody on the team is to ask my leader, if I don't have specific things, hey, what specifically do you see my realm and my role in doing?
Yeah. And graciously. Yeah.
Because
grace on both sides.
Just like that leader. I mean, we were there probably for a total of about 2.5 to 3 hours, like total, because he didn't understand. And I don't know if he just didn't want to say, hey, this is exactly what to do, or there's a chance he didn't know exactly.
Yeah. It's easy to cast vision. It's hard to like give practical steps.
Yeah. There's dreamers.
Yeah.
And then there's implementers.
Yeah.
This is how I want you to do and it's really tough. That's why I love the fact that I've surrounded myself with guys that think differently, think in the same direction, but think differently. But I would say if you're a leader and you go, man, I know my role, but I want to develop, I would make sure that you're connecting with that youth pastor, with whatever, and saying, hey, I just want to make sure I understand what is your expectation specifically so I can make sure I'm doing the task. But then also, I think you need to look for ways to share. Hey, can I share with you a couple of ideas? Is there a chance we could go out? Would you be willing for us as a team to bring you ideas of how we could develop? I think it's both ways.
Yeah.
Some of you out there, you're a youth leader or you're a worker, you're listening to this and you go, I've got a ton of vision and dream, but I don't have leeway. So really, Josh, I think one of the things that we need to cover in a future episode is what happens when my leadership isn't giving me the opportunity to expand and to create, because that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's extremely tough. Fortunately, I don't have that situation happening. I am surrounded by really great leaders who give me great opportunities. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
Absolutely.
One other thing before we move into small group, Word of Life has these kind of resources available. I know it sounds like I'm doing a plug, but the Multiply app is something that gives you the opportunity to connect on discipleship and keeping up on the curriculum and doing things as a team together and kind of building that area.
Yeah.
But there's also area missionaries who you can reach out to and have as a resource as a youth pastor.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
we talked about in the last episode, youth pastors can be some of the loneliest people.
Oh, absolutely.
And being stuck by themselves. And so, that's not a sit, that's not a sell, that's not a pitch. Don't go out, you don't have to go and buy, whatever we're selling. But there are
Make
those
the check payable to Josh and Kyle.
Exactly. Or Kyle.
Yeah.
But no, it is worth looking into those resources, but it's also worth just getting in your community, finding a group of people you can connect with.
Well, and here's the beautiful thing that area missionary is going to do. They're going to walk in, and if you give them the leeway, and if you say, "Hey, what do you think I should do?" They've got enough experience, and the wisdom that they bring is not just with your one church. They're on the outside working with multiple churches
in a region
and are able to say, hey, here's what we found. Here's what I found works over here. Here's what it may or may not work for you here, but here's ideas. But here's what they're going to help you do. They're going to help you think through your leadership team strategy. Every great winning team, every player knows their position. They know the other player's position. They know these are the delegated tasks of my position, but also this is how I work with the other positions. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, champion teams aren't just a group of people that show up at the same place at the same time and watch one or two people pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
A champion team says, I understand my role here. I'm executing with excellence.
Yeah.
But then the fun championship teams are not just the ones that know their role and know how to pull it off with excellence.
Yeah.
They're having fun. They're being creative.
Yeah.
They're talking. And
Absolutely.
I know that was one of the joys when I was an area missionary, and that those guys are out there. They want to help you do that.
Yeah.
And they're not going to walk in and say, this is how you have to do it.
Yeah, sure.
Now they may say, this is how I found best, or this is an idea.
And give you those ideas. But no, and I think that's just the difference between a good team and a bad team. It's like the difference between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys.
Dang.
And with that, we're going to transition into
the whole scripture.
we're going to move into small group. We have a couple minutes left, and we have some more crazy stories. Guys, if you don't know, small group is our time where we just talk about either encouraging or crazy stories about what happens in youth ministry. Today we have two just crazy stories, I think.
Two crazy stories.
Two crazy stories.
All right. Crazy story number one. Kid got the flu over the house we were staying. Kid got the flu all over the house that we were staying at for a trip. Oh yeah. He ate red velvet cake, strawberry lemonade drinking for dinner, mixed that with white carpet. It looked like a murder scene as I was scrubbing puke out of the carpet at 1 a.m.
Dude, that's like peak camp though. There's always that kid that throws up. And that's not camp. That's like a story of someone's house. That's awful. But I remember a time where I saw somebody during a challenge at camp. Oh, they threw up.
Yeah.
And one of the other program people, which if you don't know about camp, we have people who come up and
do the activities,
guys. One of the that music always does that thing. I gotta change that out.
Threw up.
But this girl walks up and she's part of the program team, comes up and goes, "Oh, what are we doing for the challenge?" Takes a big old fingerful.
No.
And licks it off her finger.
No.
And they tried to stop her. They go, "It's vomit. It's vomit." I've never seen somebody run out so quickly. She ate somebody. It was disgusting.
And Josh, I don't know about you. I'm a sympathetic puker.
Oh yeah, no.
If I hear you, if I get it in my head. I remember one time I was at an event, and a buddy of mine got up to preach the gospel, and literally within 5 minutes, a kid front row, mid center, just throws up right there, and just right. And my buddy in the smartness, of that moment. Well, all right, and literally just steps to the other side of the room. And so his wife, who was pregnant at the time, and me are like, we got to go clean this up. Well, I'm not going to let the pregnant lady go clean it.
Sure, you're
so
a
I went,
noble
I
person.
grabbed it, grabbed a bunch of paper towels, and as I'm running over, I'm thinking in my head, I'm a sympathetic puker. I've got to be ready. I've got to take a breath. The problem was I was rushing. And so I stood right over top of the puke and then went to get my breath, and so I had to run. So
gosh, I hope the next story is not near as...
It doesn't have anything to do with puke.
Okay.
I'm gonna set the scene.
Okay.
3:30 a.m. Winter lock-in. A dodgeball mysteriously hits the fire alarm. Now, the person, this is what they wrote. Mysteriously hits. Do you think that it was a kid that was like,
I'm going to hit the fire alarm?
I'm gonna hit the fire alarm.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. But a dodgeball mysteriously hits the fire alarm. The fire alarm is connected to the automatic dispatch to the local fire department from down the street. And so after it goes off for a couple of minutes, the pastor's daughter, 3:30 a.m., the pastor's daughter calls him in a panic. He sprints from his house across the parking lot. This is why it's beautiful when a pastor lives like
right there. The parsonage.
He sprints across from his house across the parking lot to the church to try to shut off the fire alarm before the fire department shows up. I had been in the youth pastor position for about, a week. Yeah, a week.
Word. The audacity, I'm just kidding. But imagine setting up a lock-in a week after being the youth pastor. Like, I'm going to start off on a really good note.
Well, now there's a chance. Let's give this person, there's a chance they walked in and they were like, hey, just so you know, we have this lock-in. In a week, it's all set up. It's like, okay.
Oh, man.
You know.
I was at a lock-in when I was in youth, and I accidentally pocket dialed, not once, but twice, 911, and they did not believe me on the second call. I'm like, I am so sorry. They're like, no, like you. I'm like, here, talk to my youth pastor. And he's trying to like talk them down because they're upset, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I unintentionally, they assume that early in the morning it's a prank call, and no, by no means was it a prank call. But boy, I felt so bad about that.
Well, in a sense, you pranked yourself.
I really did, and I've done that multiple times because I had one of those little like track phones or whatever when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And because I'm super old, of course. No, but you didn't even have phones when you were in school, right?
We had phones. They were just connected to a wire on the wall.
On the wall? How do you have a wire connected to the wall for a phone? All right, well, I think that's the way we transition out, right?
That's right. That is how we transition out. Let's talk about how old Kyle is.
Kyle.
Hey, guys, this has been a great time with you. Again, our heartbeat is not to give you all the answers, but let's skim the surface and create a culture of conversation here.
Absolutely.
None of us are perfect in ministry. All of us have to do the nasty grunt work of stacking the chairs, just like all of us have to do the hard work of how are we building our leadership team.
And cleaning up vomit.
And making sure that the local fire department doesn't come at the last minute. Hey, guys, we'd love to hear from you. You see in the lower thirds of where you can send us stories.
Yeah, send us stories.
If you're listening, there are no lower thirds.
Check the description.
But check the description, and it's right there. Hey, guys, this is Kyle, and Josh for Stacking Chairs. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. And by the way, that one in the back, if you flip it around the other way, it will actually fit a little closer together. Yeah.
We should just look at the camera as we exit out. You look at that one. You're over there. Okay.
See ya.
See ya.
Stack those chairs!
Oh, no.